Good afternoon. I'm so happy to see so many of us around the tables. We have a very busy agenda ahead of us, but before we start, we want to go to our chairman, the chair of the campaign. Richard, are you with us? So, okay, Richard. We can't hear you.
Now it's unmuted.
Okay, now it's all yours. It's
I wasn't
all yours
able-
to open this meeting. Richard, please.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you all for participating. I understand there's quite a group in Israel, which is wonderful. I'm sorry that I can't be with you today, but I wanted to welcome everybody to our campaign cabinet meeting. And I think that, Yossi, the first thing we're going to discuss is the Centennial campaign tracking.
Yes, indeed. We do have a very busy agenda ahead of us. Let me just say a word or two about the agenda. And since we only have an hour and a half, it's even less now, we should really rush. As usual, we will open with a detailed campaign tracking of this year and the Centennials campaign. And this will be given as usual by Ram Semo, and then we will have time for questions on his presentation. The second stage is we've asked 4 of our friends organization around the world to talk about specific aspects of their work. So the American friends, we're very happy to have Josh. Josh, this is your first campaign meeting, right? Okay, so Josh will be speaking about engaging the next generation. Our there's a powerful Canadian delegation here, and the Canadians will speak about planning for a different future. Is that right? Okay, great. And Guy, where is Guy? Guy will speak about the impact and involvement and whatever he's done on the Israeli front. And then we'll talk about leveraging the crowd, a presentation by our European friends. Each one of these presentations will last for about 6 or 7 minutes. But let's do a very, very quick round around the table because there are so many new faces here, and I don't think everybody knows everybody. So let's start with you, Tamir.
Beth McCoy, I think I know everyone here, USA.
Annette Bakula, USA.
Ike Sorkin, USA.
Hi everyone, Guy Shaulsky from the Israeli desk.
I'm Michael Dunkel, Australia.
Rob Schneider, Australia.
Edu Polak from the Latin American desk.
Gabriel Goldman, Uruguay.
Héctor Sussman, Argentina.
Dora Brenner, Brasil.
Monica Lobel, United States.
Daniel Shriki, the European desk.
Josh Rednick, USA.
Ayala Davis, Canada.
Dina Wachtel, Canada.
Debbie Dankoff, Canada.
Rami Kleiman, Canada.
Manette Malevsky, Canada.
Marie Palais, Canada.
Nigel Solomon, Canada.
Not Canada, UK.
Charles Canetti, France.
Clive Kibetzik, United States.
Alan Jacobs, UK.
Mark Mayer, United States.
Michael Federman, Israel.
Brenda Needle Shimoni, Israel.
Avi Mishale, Israel.
And Nechama.
And that, I guess, concludes our presentation. So without further ado, Mr. Semo.
Okay, I'm warming
the
up here.
The floor is yours.
See, I was.
Are we blocking you? Can you see? I see great. Thank you.
Let's block you.
We'll get to blocks in a moment. Yeah, I'm stretching here for the next game. So welcome everybody. Wow, this is a full board. I'm timing myself. Okay. Muna, everything is okay? Ah. Okay, now they can see. So we're going to have an interactive event here. I'm going to be speaking at the beginning, and then, as Yossi mentioned, the friends will go one after the other. I'm not going to be inviting them. They will be inviting themselves and speaking from here and from the crowd. So what are we going to talk about? First of all, being relevant, then some statistics. For those who love numbers, we have here a lot of numbers, snapshots of this year's achievements, fundraising source analysis, some very interesting stuff. Yossi mentioned the one figure foundations versus others. We're going to show you what happened in the last campaign and go deep into Europe. And then Back to the Future, the movie of 1985. We're going to try to do it here with our Friends organization. But let's start with the most important things, okay? Especially for the Americans. Let's go Celtics. I know half of you will hate me. Half of you will not forget me. So, no, that's that's the end of the presentation, Josh, you're on, with the Philadelphia. Okay, let's go. Being relevant. Now, what am I showing you here? So, there's a business roundtable, Israel. This is something that happened 2 years ago during that pandemic. This is an organization led by Yoel Cheshin. Yoel Cheshin is a board member of Israel and the son of Ruth Cheshin. And on Tuesday, we have an event at the Cheshin new building in Mount Scopus. So what they're doing is they're trying to change a couple of things in Israel. And they have about 150 CEOs of many companies in Israel. It can be Google, it can be Coca-Cola, etc. Now, what are they doing with us? So they approached us. Yoel Cheshin as the chairman, and all his team is women, by the way. All the professionals are women. And they started talking to Guy and myself because they want to do something with us that involves the high-tech park, philanthropy, business, and maybe changing the workforce in the country. They've been talking to Barak as well. Now, why did they come to us? Because Yoel Cheshin knows that we can be challenged, and we want to try new things. So we don't know what's going to come out of it. We didn't have a real meeting with them, but suddenly industry is talking with the university. They're talking to us, not we're talking to them. Then this is from the President's report. This is the survey that we did about our students. So it's all in the President's report. I just want to show you one thing that is relevant here. Look at the 3.96 fold return. What does that mean? That means that we gave 50 million shekels. I can point out here, I think, 50 million shekels for students need-based in the Hebrew University between 2010 and 2017. So we gave out 50, and we're going to get the net financial utility of investing that $50 million to them, 50 million shekels, to the students in increasing their salary, to Israel by taxes, and to the GDP is 200 million shekels. So on every shekel dollar that someone puts in the system, there is a return of 4. No other university in Israel can show it. Now, I know that there are many people here, especially professors, who will challenge that number, which is fine with us. But this is something that we want to try and be able to measure impact. So this is measuring impact. And of course, if someone wants me to elaborate, I can do it not here, but during the Board of Governors. So that's being relevant. Let's go into numbers. So Yossi showed it to you today, so I'm not going to do it again. But the trend is good. Hopefully this year we have some big things in the pocket. We're very optimistic. We don't know if it's going to happen, but we're going to hopefully talk in these numbers this year as well. So this year only, again, October 2021 until April, we raised $60 million. As you can see on the right side, this is according to the countries. So the US, as usual, is leading with $26 million. Look at the Canadian. They had a great half year. And then comes United Kingdom, Israel, and Australia. On the left side is according to our SPA. So human health is continuing to lead, and Better World is second, and Leadership for Tomorrow is third. That's only for the 7 months. Now let's look at our campaign. So from the beginning, 4.5 years, a little bit more, we raised $592 million. That's 59%. We are now 65% into this campaign. So we're a bit, again, behind it, but we hope to catch it up. Countries on the right side, I don't want to go into the numbers, you can look at them. SPAs on the left side. So again, look what's happening with human health, $140 million, and Better World right after that with 105. The Leadership for Tomorrow, 96. This is our theme for the Board of Governors, etc. I'll go deeper in a moment. So let's enjoy some success stories. What we did here is we took the numbers that we put in 2018, 4 years ago, and looked what happened. So if we go from left to right, nano activities and scholarships, the number out there, this is the original number. I did not manipulate the original number, and if I did, I'll tell you. This is how much we raised for these scholarships. What we're missing here is the CSCC building, the 4th building of this place, Computer Science and Engineering, which needs to be on my right-hand side whenever we raise that money. The 4th. I said the 3rd? The 4th. But in any case, if you see the Fetterman Cyber Center here, so the goal was 7, we raised 7. And all across the board, teaching laboratory annex in science, that's the Joyce Bramwell building that you can see on the other side. So we raised the money. The Drahi Quantum Nano building, the goal was 32. With the government, we have $30 million, etc. So this is impressive as per who you innovate. We still have more to go. Again, there's something in the pipeline. Let's go to human health. So all over the place, there is a lot of money that we have raised. Okay, when I say computational medicine, this was the number at the beginning. It wasn't clear to us what is it exactly. Now there's a building behind it, and there were scholarships for the Sagol program in computational medicine. ELSEC, $24 million raised. COVID-19, of course, was not then, but 19 million came in. Scholarship, look at the huge amount that we have raised, et cetera, et cetera. Let's go to Leadership for Tomorrow. So I want to show you here Mandel School for the Humanities, so that's $13 million. Chairs and senior lectureships, $8 million. Revivim, we put a number, 5 million, we almost raised it. We need more, but it's still here. And we can go on, but as you see, when I looked at the numbers, I said, wow, I guess we're doing some kind of a good job because things are happening, and this is better world. So I want you to look at the international scholarships here. So we're more than halfway there. Supporting diversity, it's growing. Muna is right here, so I'm afraid. So we should meet the goal very, very soon. Okay, scholarships and fellowship need-based. Again, huge numbers here, huge numbers in the last couple of years. Sometimes the dean of students says he has a problem with us. We're bringing a lot of money. I won't say too much money, but he sometimes says it's difficult, and a lot of money is coming to STEM. So sometimes we need to know that there's not only STEM around in the world, we have other disciplines as well. A global collaboration, this is for Oron, who's not here, so these things kind of happen. Okay, so I'm showing the University of Toronto, which we have a great alliance, but we're not raising a lot of money. UCLA, we have a great alliance with Muna, but we're not yet raising a lot of money. Where with TUM Helbon, out of the blue, suddenly we raised a lot of money. Technical University München, Menachem, Germany. And with Australia, Human Health Collaboration, with some help from Michael Dunkel here, we have a great partnership right now with them. Sources of donations. Now we took this campaign, we divided it to 4 parts. The blue one is foundations. The yellow is individuals. The light blue is estates. And the top one is events, friends events around the world. So as we can see, the growing trend that Yossi talked about today of foundations, they are huge. Now, what is a foundation? A foundation, of course, can be a typical foundation, but Gail is not here. But for example, Asper, of course, although we have Gail, we're working with the foundations. And the Canadians know how tough it was to get to that point. So, and sometimes it can be an estate that is coming over and over every year. So that means we have a lot of work to do on our side. It can be sending proposals, it can be sending reports, tons of reports, and going over and over. So this trend is very, very interesting. You can see on the right-hand side, we can see that this is this year, but again, this is going to change because we know what's coming in the pipeline. And again, the foundations are not going to be 29 or 48%. So this is the global trend, and one can understand that if we want to keep on growing, we need to be able to work with foundations. Now we want to do a snapshot of Europe. Europe is an interesting case because we saw it coming a couple of years ago. So we can say it's luck. It's always luck. You know, Mark, what you said in the last meeting, we were lucky, so we were lucky as well, but it's not only luck. So see what happens in Europe. 80 out of the $86 million that was raised during the last 4.5 years, 87% is for foundations. That's huge. And if you see even the trend, it's growing. So for the last 2 years, it's almost 100% from foundations. So in our division, we have a mechanism today for foundations in Europe. We have 2 employees. We did not have them 3 years ago. And it's getting complicated. You know, these huge foundations, they have tons of demands. Just maintaining what's going on in Europe for the next couple of years is something that is very complicated, and the demand is huge. Again, I want to, one point about events. You know, 3% of the money is coming from events, so we know that the big money is not coming from the event, and the events are for other causes. But let's not forget that to put all our energy in events, this shows that it's not the best way going forward, to say it this way. Now, I want to talk for a moment about 2 expressions. These are my 2 daughters. So Yossi showed today his granddaughters. I want to show Hila is on the right. She started studying at the university in 2013, and Shira on the left is going to start this coming year. Now, I took two expressions that I found, VUCA and BANI. So I don't know who knows what they mean, but the term VUCA was coined almost 30 years ago by management advisors and by for military strategics. This concept dominated in the business world and boardrooms during the last 20 years. It has been useful to describe the times we have lived in so far and helped us to understand the first impact of the pandemic situation. So it's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now came the COVID, and now our world is a bunny world, which means brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. I won't go into this, but when I look at my two daughters, 7 years apart, there are two generations. And this is, I think, the world that we are in today. When, non-linear, something happens in China, I guess, and look what happened to the rest of the world. Now, climate, we did something 40 years ago, now it's happening. It's very hard to predict what's going to happen tomorrow. And this is our world. And this brings us back to the future. Now, I showed this one in our last meeting. But today I'm not going to talk about this because the friends are going to talk about a couple of phenomena that are here. And this session is basically, we know where the big money is coming from, okay? We didn't forget that. You saw it just before. But when we're trying to live in a bunny world, B-A-N-I, we need to kind of be creative and think out of the box and throw out many ideas. Part of them will not really help us, but we need to be in a situation where we're all the time looking in this nonlinear world for answers. So with this, I finish. And Josh, you're up next. Sure. Who? No, I stopped my timer. I was on time.
So one observation. So one of the categories in the strategic priorities where we're coming up materially short, and a big one is young faculty recruitment. So be interested in thoughts there. And then sort of more broadly, as we think about the big problems in the world, climate change is, we can debate whether it's the biggest problem or not, but it will undoubtedly be the most expensive one to address. And yet, sustainable planet is really pulling up the rear. Just any thoughts on why that's just not captivating donors?
I think Asha would like to answer the second one. In related to your first question, Mark, look, regarding young faculty, we really threw out a number out there that is very, very high. I think that's a reason. It's not that we never raised $20 million a year for young faculty. Maybe we need it, but we never raised that. So that's one. You want to talk about, Asher, about Yossi, about climate?
And the other answer to your question is that we live in a changing reality. And so the SPAs, the strategic priority areas, were determined 4 years ago in the management. But of course, I mean, twice or 3 or 4 times a year in the management, we have new priorities that pop up. Sustainability is, of course, much higher in this, and we keep adapting, but we kept the same division into the strategic priority areas, even though every now and then we change the emphasis. Don't say a word.
The 87% from institutions, what did you call them?
Foundations.
Foundations. Do they designate where they want that 87% to go, or do we simply say, we'll decide where it goes.
No, 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 no,
I'd
no.
like a breakdown.
No, you cannot decide.
Yes.
Each and every one of these thousands of foundations, and we're talking about thousands.
Thousands.
In the process of sorting out the foundations, first you have to realize which ones are really relevant, because in many countries in Europe, foundations cannot spend anything outside their country. Okay, so 80% of the foundations you put aside. Of the other 20, each and every one of them is dedicated to a very specific topic. It can be cancer research, it can be sustainability, it can be agriculture.
Could we get a breakdown of where that 20% goes? Is that
Well,
possible? It may not be possible.
Well, it depends. I mean, we have, in a number of European countries, we have those lists, but they differ from one country to the other, even in Europe itself. That are eligible to, the 20% that we can approach. I mean, because the vast majority we cannot even approach because we're not eligible to participate.
My question is, I knew the answer was they tell you where they want their money to go.
Of course.
That's right. And we don't have a breakdown as to where they want their money to go and what we do with their money. That's the only issue I'm raising.
Well, and the answer is that it depends. The answer is one for Germany, a different answer for Switzerland, and a totally different answer for Luxembourg or for
I understand that, but we don't know what Luxembourg wants. We don't know what Germany
Oh,
wants.
we do want. We do
that's what I'm
know.
saying, but we don't see it here. That's what I'm asking. We do. I'm simply asking that if we have a large number of foundations that we're emphasizing, I'd like to see, if it's possible, where they want their money to go. That's the only thing I'm asking.
Well, we can certainly provide you with a few examples. For example, take all the foundations in Luxembourg. There aren't too many. And see what they are interested in. 4 of these foundations we are eligible to approach, and we are in the process of approaching. This is what you mean?
I think, Ram answered you. We have the details and you can get them. And I think we should present them.
I'm not talking about approaching. I'm talking about they've given us money, and I'm asking.
You're talking about information. You want to know what's the priorities of those foundations. And
right. That's it. That's it.
Remarks, Ike. First of all, we have a Salesforce system. It's easy today to do that. That's one. Second, as you saw when I presented, that we have our spas and we're doing very good. So right, the foundations want to give to one thing. Many times it's what we want. We want to have as well. So if we have the nano quantum building that Drahi gave us, this is exactly in our spa. So many times it matches. That's the whole idea of this campaign, that we're not shooting out there.
I'm with you. They've given money. All I'm asking for, I'd like to know where that money has gone. It's that simple. Where's the foundation money going?
The question is about information, and we will give the information.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ike. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to briefly reintroduce myself, because I think I'm the newest person in the room. Josh Rednick. I apologize.
Ram's slide showed that 97%, I think it was, of funds raised in Europe, which excludes the UK, is all coming from foundations, which I guess very large, sophisticated family offices and more formal organisations. Obviously in the UK, I can only speak about the UK, a much lower percentage is coming from foundations. Is that because we're missing a trick doing it ourselves and we should be using your methodologies to make sure we approach every foundation, or is it simply a fact that we've got people on the ground also pursuing individual donations? Could we do better is what I'm saying with foundations.
So first of all, we're getting a lot of money from the UK from foundations. As of today, we can always do better. That's always an answer. Yeah, but we should try to do it together, working on foundations, because that's where the big money is. Nigel knows we're talking about that all the time.
Okay? Okay. So I'm going to reintroduce myself. Josh Rednick. I joined American Friends in late February as Chief Executive Officer, and it's really great to be here. Quick show of hands. How many people in the room believe it's important for our organizations to be investing in the next generation? All right, so a unanimous vote. Barack may have abstained, which is fine. Thank you, Brenda. You can fill in for Barack. So clearly, we feel that it's important as well. And long before I joined the organization, key leaders of American Friends got together and had a series of conversations about making this exact kind of investment in the next generation, not only of donors to the organization, but also in volunteer leaders. And this has become really a key focus for what we're working on. And some of you have even seen members of our lead group here in Israel. They've been here since Tuesday. I joined them on Tuesday, and I've been spending about 50% of my time with them since I came in, which has been really, frankly, terrific. I will say before I talk a little bit about the LEAD program that having spent about 25 years in the nonprofit sector, mostly working for Jewish and Israel-facing and Israel-concerned organizations, not only is every organization I've ever been a part of professionally and as a volunteer or a donor myself been focused on this, but everybody I talk to in the nonprofit sector broadly in the United States is focused on this, not just Jewish community and not just Israel-facing organizations. All organizations are worried about what it looks like to engage, to train, to onboard, and to keep involved that younger generation of donors. The second thing that I would say is I've spent a little bit of time over the last couple of days talking with friends and colleagues from the UK, from Canada. Rob and I keep trying to connect and talking about Australia. We haven't had a chance to do so yet. I'll look for you tonight, Rob. We'll get a drink. But I know this is on the minds of my colleagues around the world as well. Quickly, what the LEAD program actually stands for, as you'll see at the top of this slide, Leadership, Empowerment, and Developments. And we have a couple of slides here that'll give you all an overview. Now, I don't intend to talk directly to the slides. I trust you all can sort of multitask a little bit and read what's on the slides while I talk a little bit about some key points. But this first slide gives you a little bit of a sense of exactly what Cohort 1, their experience, has looked like being involved in this Leadership, Empowerment, and Development program. What's important for me to note is the numbers here are slightly out of date. We've actually raised a little bit over $400,000 in support of this program until recently when Beth actually engaged a donor in Florida for a new commitment of $100,000 to continue supporting the LEAD program. And we believe we'll continue to have success getting the more experienced, that's the word that I'll use for now, members of our leadership bodies and donors to be supportive of engaging their next generation. One really important point that I want to convey to all of you is that all of the support that we have created around this program thus far, financially speaking, has all been what I would consider to be private fundraising. And by that I mean we have no allocations in the operating budget of our organization towards the LEAD program. Everything has been raised incrementally above and beyond our operating budget. Originally, for our first cohort, we had 20 people who were signed on. This was right before COVID hit, as you would imagine, trying to keep everybody engaged and manage this program through the last 2.5+ years has shown to create any number of different challenges for us. We now have about 15 people still engaged because we have had a few people drop off. That's unfortunate. It's also not totally unexpected when you start with a group of 20. From my vantage point, at least, you would probably expect some measure of attrition as a group like this goes on. And I would add that there's already significant interest in Cohort 2, and Cohort 1 has not even graduated yet. In fact, Clive will be hosting a small commencement ceremony at our dinner tomorrow night, and Cohort 1 will in fact soon become graduates. We do not have robes or mortarboards for them. Something tells me we might be able to borrow them from the university. An interesting point while I'm still on this slide that I want to make is there's two different kinds of participants in the program right now. Here's what I mean by that. One kind of participant comes from completely outside of our organization. They were known to us, they were known to members of our board, they were known to members of our staff, but importantly, they are not second or third generation members of families that have been involved with our American Friends for any period of time. They are new to us and we are new to them. And I think that's very encouraging because we're bringing in people who have not yet been involved with the American Friends of the Hebrew University. The other kind of person is a second or a third generation member of longstanding philanthropic families that have been a part of our family for many, many years. And from my vantage point, I think it's critically important that there's a good mix of both in this group, people who have known our organization for a long time and people who are new to us. Lead cohort 2, I talked about just a little bit a moment ago. There's a significant level of interest. We are still trying to figure out exactly when we are going to bring this group in. We have toyed with the idea of starting cohort 2 as early as September. That feels a little bit soon to me for a variety of reasons. We've toyed with the idea of starting in January of next year, and actually following a breakfast meeting I had with the lead cohort members themselves this morning, I would say we might even consider pushing it a little bit further out to give more time for the first cohort to really immerse themselves in the organization and then be a guide to those who will follow them. This slide gives you a quick sense of where from around the United States the different participants in cohort 1 come from, where they hail from. It won't surprise anyone to know, I don't think, that the same geographic areas of the country that we see well represented in our campaign numbers and in the ranks of our leadership and much more are pretty much the same as what you see on this map. The one arrow that is missing is for Texas. We do have one participant from Dallas, Texas, but he used to be in California, so until recently we would have had a cluster out on the West Coast. And again, no major surprise in terms of where they're coming from. We think it reflects exactly what the organization looks like. This slide, again, as I continue to talk over it, should give you a little bit of a flavor of the kinds of activities this group has been engaged in since they've come on board. I'll share with you all that my first introduction to them took place earlier this year when we were all in New York for a leadership weekend, a national board weekend. We had a happy hour with them. We had a leadership dinner on a Saturday night. And we sort of gathered them just among themselves as a group, spent a little bit of time with me and other key leaders of our organization. And then we began to immerse them with members of our national board. So there was some measure of mixing and mingling between the more experienced members and leaders of our organization and these newer ones. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, I did arrive a couple of days early, and I've been here on the ground spending a great deal of time with this group. And I will admit to all of you quite openly that I came into this experience with a lot of questions about what this lead group was all about. As I'll get to in a moment, it's an expensive proposition to be investing in a program like this. I think it's a necessary investment, and I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But what I should share with all of you, although I'm still getting to know you all, is the degree to which I've been really pleased, and I'll even say in some cases almost pleasantly surprised, by the quality and the caliber of this group, this cohort, both as a group in terms of how they are coalescing and thinking about the role or the roles they can be playing in support of our university, but also as individuals and how each of them see themselves playing different kinds of roles going forward, bringing new ideas to the table, and much, much more. And then in this slide, I'll introduce you to Chad Lasden from our Western region. Chad lives in Los Angeles. He's a member of Cohort 1. Had an opportunity to spend a lot of time with Chad over the last couple of weeks and months, including when I was in LA a few weeks ago with Beth and others. Chad and I went out for coffee, which was an absolute pleasure. Very forward-thinking, very dedicated to what's going on, and you can see in his own words on the right side of this slide exactly what motivates him. A couple of other quick comments, and then I'll wrap things up. We'll go to questions, because I do want to be conscious of time and leave a little bit of time for all of you to ask questions of us. In addition to all the expectations and hopes and dreams that we have for this group and they have for themselves, we have asked for a financial commitment as well. Each member of Cohort 1 has been asked to make a minimum gift to American Friends of $5,000 or more. I can tell you that in some cases, I think the minimum will come in from these folks because that's what they can afford based on where they are in life and in career. And in some cases, I think it's quite promising that gifts larger than that will come in. And I had sort of a private conversation off to the side during dinner last night with one of the growing leaders of the group itself. They are really trying to figure out how they thank us for the experience that they've had, and they acknowledge that one of the ways to do so is through the gift that they will make as a group and as individuals. Now, away from these slides, and I'm going to put the first slide from Canada up because that'll keep you focused more on me and not on the slides. A couple of things that I do want to note about this before we take some questions. One, as I've said on a couple of occasions, this is not an inexpensive proposition. To run this program is costing us in the neighborhood of $500,000. That includes all the workshops, the trip to Israel, the trip to New York. I mean, we are basically footing the bill for all of this. We do see the possibility of significant return on this investment, but there's two things for me to say about that for now. One, I think it's going to be very hard to quantify. It'll be much easier to qualify, but difficult to quantify what that ROI, what that return on investment will look like. It might take us 5, 10, 20 or more years to see the full realization of what all of these younger people can do for us and with us. And that's an incredibly important thing for us to think about. And If we only look at the ROI in terms of the money they give, I personally believe, and I have a sense that most of all of you would agree with me, that we're missing out on a key part of the story. This morning, we sort of wrapped things up in terms of my experience with them so far. They asked me for time just with me, not with Laura Abrams, our Young Leadership Development Director, National Leadership Development Director, who's been the staff person for this group, who's done a really outstanding job of just keeping them together throughout this pandemic. And they asked for time just with me, so we got up very early for all of us, had breakfast at the Inn Ball. And the depth and the thoughtfulness of the questions they were throwing my way really gave me a great deal of confidence about their level of commitment so far. And again, I think how they are really trying to think about what it means to be involved individually, but also what it means for them to stay involved as a group and become that next generation of leadership for us. So that's our lead program, and I think I and we are happy to take any questions you might have. Any questions? You can applaud if you want to, Monette. I'm not going to be shy about that. Please, Nigel.
I also have a mic. To what extent has the physical visit in Israel and on campus significantly improved the engagement of this group?
So I'm tempted to throw the question back to Nigel because over lunch today I made sure to set Nigel up with 3 members of this group so that they could have conversations just like this, but I'll do my best. My sense, Nigel, and this answer is not going to surprise anybody in this room, but my sense is having spent time with them since they've been here, hearing them talk amongst themselves, hearing the comments and feedback they have shared with me, the experience of being here on the ground in Israel with them together as a group has been absolutely unifying and in some ways probably irreversibly critical for the dedication they're going to show in the future towards our organization in America and the Hebrew University itself. As Yossi has said on a couple of occasions since we've been here, and I'm going to paraphrase, there is nothing like actually having groups on the ground here in Israel and the power of that experience and the impact it has.
Could I just add a follow-up? And to what extent has being here during the Board of Governors been significant?
That I think still remains to be determined because they've only been through about a day of Board of Governors meetings so far. We have 3 more days of activities, and they're participating in most but not all of those. That'll be an interesting follow-up question for us to ask of them after we're all back in the States. Alan.
Josh, can you see this program morphing into something which is an international program? Partly because obviously countries like the UK, we're subscale in terms of numbers, we couldn't do it ourselves. But I could see a number of younger people, getting a lot out of it. Or is it just going to be too US focused for that?
So from my vantage point, it's funny, I was just talking about this after lunch with some of my colleagues from Canada. Rami and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Nigel and I spoke about it in the day prior to that. From my vantage point, particularly as the world continues to get smaller, I'd like to think that we would be open to considering any and all opportunities to make this more of an international program. Lots of questions would need to be addressed about who's going to lead it, how we staff it, and really importantly, as I've hit upon throughout today's presentation, how we resource it, how we pay for it. But I think for me, as the still somewhat new CEO of our organization, any opportunity to partner with our colleagues around the world, at a minimum, I'm open to discussing. Other questions? Okay. I'm going to invite our much more polite and friendly neighbors from the north in Canada to take over the mic, and I will step down. Thank you, everyone. Great to be here.
No, yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, so first of all, welcome, Josh, and it was very nice meeting with you yesterday. What is it? Oh, here, that's. So, you know, 5 years ago, when we looked to the Canadian friends at all the changes and all the different trends that we see in philanthropy, we understood that continue to operate the way that we operated all the years can put really in danger our existing. And when we look to the whole issue of survival, we ask ourselves a question: who is going to survive? Sorry? Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. So I said 5 years ago, Josh, I thank you, just in case you didn't hear it. So 5 years ago, at the Canadian Friends, we decided to take a very, very deep and close look at all the different changes in the landscape of philanthropy and how it's going to impact and affect the Canadian Friends of the Hebrew University. And we saw that with all the different changes that's coming, the existing structure and the organization is really in danger of even surviving. And what is it that we need to do in order to change? And we ask ourselves a very simple question. Who will survive? What will make us survive? Being strong, being smart, or increase our ability to adapt quickly to changes? And obviously the answer is to adapt to changes and to be able bravely to depart from the past and to launch ourselves into the future. So together with my very good friend and partner, Monet Malevsky, as the new chair at the time of the organization, we launched a partnership between the board and the professional team and really looking at every single facet of the organization. Every single thing that was operating, we questioned it, we checked it, we looked at that, we measure it, and we come to a very, very important conclusion. That's we started by changing the structure of the organization. We've been a regional organization, we've been an endowment-centric organization, and we understood that in a country like Canada, that it is bigger than the size of the United States, but a community of 380,000 Jews, not even, we can't afford having this structure. It's a structure that's not going to be sustainable. And we changed the structure to be more of a national team. That's all we work together and we don't look at the territories. We have presence in cities, but we don't have territories. And we change also to work to amount the fundraising on what we call portfolio-driven operation. That's every fundraiser or every member of the organization have an area and list of donor and organization that are going to operate. Another important thing, we realize that the capital is changing its behavior. And when we talked years ago with Ram about family foundations, what is the difference? It's just capital that's put in a different structure, but today, what we see even, that this capital is part of an ecosystem of family foundations, of family offices, of family businesses, and we need to learn very, very carefully what is the dynamic of all this moving part and how we're going to operate. So just the last decision that the board made and we together launched on it was that how we now, after we made all these changes, how we're going to imagine the future and what is the next step. And I'm going to pass now to introduce Ayala Davis. Ayala Davis was the professional that's actually conducted and worked together with an outside facilitator that's invited. And it's important to say that the facilitator that we invited to work with us on this process was not from the Jewish community, knew nothing about Jewish organization. We want him to be as less biased or come with predetermined ideas to the table, and I think it's worked very well. Ayala.
Hi. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. So what we did is we actually formed a committee where we recruited people, various levels of engagement. Some were new to, most were new to us. Some were not, with a median age of around 40, also reflecting our looking at the next generation. We've had 7 sessions so far. We have 1 more to go. And we talked about various, oh, sorry, I'm supposed to be clicking and talking at the same time, okay? So our discussions included next generation philanthropy, the changing landscape of volunteer engagement, governance, and board diversity. And some of the key words that kept coming up were continuity of Jewish values, impact investment, and impact, yet again, with the new generation. And we see a lot of moving from being a philanthropic organization to a philanthropic community, to actually living the values, to engaging our volunteers and our leaders in what we do, in very hands-on involvement in where their donations are going, in where their investment is going. This is again from philanthropic living to from philanthropic giving to philanthropic living. And we worked on a new mission statement, a new value proposition. So we continually reimagine customized, bespoke philanthropic connections, bridging our donors' intentions and their wants and their needs and visions with the excellence and advancement in all areas of education that our research-intensive university offers. So it's a switch from simply giving money to living with what your money is doing for the university. So now I'm going to pass this on to Debbie.
Thank you. It's close. So the slide says customized philanthropy, and I'm going to bring two examples. I'm going to talk about one. My colleague Dina is going to talk about the other one. We're looking at kind of bespoke fundraising, looking at individuals and trying to engage them. We had a fantastic opportunity that came to us about 2.5 years ago, and I really do thank my colleagues in Israel from the division for having the patience to watch this come to fruition. A young billionaire in Canada, in Montreal, proposed to all of the Canadian Friends organizations that something that he was very passionate about, he wanted to support Ethiopian students, students of Ethiopian descent within Israel. And he asked each of the universities to come forward with proposals, and in the end, instead of selecting one, he selected two, and they were Hebrew University and Tel Aviv University. His idea being, over the course of a long time, cut to the end chase, his idea is that he would create a number of scholarships that would see us through for many years. And in so doing, I want to explain a little bit about why this is so different, is he has created his own organization basically called Walk in Their Shoes. And it is a campaign that we're involved with and we benefit from. Mona actually sits on the board representing us. But he has engaged a number of other individuals, and I just wanted to give you a little example because you talked about Israel-based organizations. On Jonathan's team, he has Morris Hartstein, Mika Feldman, Anos Elad, Jonathan David of the David Foundation, Shlomo Behirun, and Joseph Abramowitz are just to name a few. In the U.S., he has Alicia Wiesel from New York. That is Exactly. He has Mark Polanski in London, and he has people throughout the world that he is engaging. So, I mean, this is really quite unique for us that here we have a guy, Montreal-based guy, who's willing to go around the world and represent us and ask people for money, and he's been doing an incredible job and getting gifts all over. He is quite engaging. He's willing to travel anywhere. And his commitment is he does everything in 18. So his commitment is once we reach a goal of $5 million, he will put in the equivalency. It's 900,000 US dollars. Okay, so for us this is really big. But if you're thinking that that's all, throughout the years they've been consistently giving us more and more gifts. Each year they come forward with 18, 36,000, 18 from his sister. So it's an incredible opportunity for us. And again, why we're looking at this as really different is this is a young philanthropist who doesn't understand borders. He doesn't care if you're a philanthropist in London, the UK, the United States, he will go anywhere. And in fact, we just worked on a Canadian gift with one of our American colleagues that turned out to be great because our American colleague knew the donor from camp. And again, you know, they went to American camp. So together, we just met with the guy and he just came forward. We're each getting a $36,000 gift. There you go. So that was it, and sped up.
So as you can see, our organization is tiny and the land is vast, and we rely heavily on our donors and on our board members. So thinking out of the box and trying to have an entrepreneurial mindset. I didn't have a guest from Hebrew University for 2.5, close to 3 years in the West Coast. As you can see, events are producing very little. So when the chair of IMRIC, Professor Rami Akilan, told me that he's going to be in Los Angeles for 1 month, I've asked him to come over for a weekend, not knowing what I'm going to do with him. When he said, yeah, I'm willing to come, which I appreciated very much, I called my board, again, relying on our volunteers. And this is our number one expectation from our volunteers. Beyond their own giving, and we're very open about it, is think who you can introduce to us. You have a virtual Rolodex, dig in, and we really sat on them. And one of our board members, Dr. Peter Hotz, called me and said, come over Saturday morning, we'll sit in my garden, I'll bring 2 people to meet you. And one of them, his name is Jack Bogdanov. I never met him. The guy is 70 plus, lives in Vancouver, and I haven't met him, which is interesting because I thought that I know most of the people in my little Jewish community. And we came, Rami and I, Rami Akilan, and we're sitting there and talking to the individual, not knowing what to expect. We did not have a clue, nor did my board member, but he said, I think that there is big potential. We met the man in November. We ended up concluding a gift of $5.2 million in March. Huge professional accomplishment because this is somebody who's giving us his first gift. It went to addiction research at Emmerich, and I must thank Brenda and her team because I called her and I requested a proposal, and I needed it yesterday because we knew that he's going to establish another fund. We didn't know at that point how vast it's going to be. As the days passed by, it became clear to us that it's going to be the second largest private Jewish fund in Canada, over $500 billion in the new fund, $1 billion in the new fund. So it's second after the Israeli fund, talking about private Jewish families. But the thing is that we had to rush it in before they put their systems in place. And so, again, it was great collaboration. The gift is in. There is bright future for a very large gift. And I'm finishing with another project that we are doing with the Jerusalem Post. We started a new podcast hosted by Canadian icon Ralph Ben-Mergi. He's a journalist with CBC. He's hosting major Canadian philanthropists. And we want to show the world the impact. We are starting with Jewish philanthropy. And so far, we did 5 shows. The last one you could have read at the Jerusalem Post for those who read this Friday. An article came up out in the magazine, an interview with Gail Asper. And in 2 days, the show is going to be broadcast on their website. And we had Naomi Azrieli, we had Jonathan Goodman, we had a few more coming up. The reason that we are doing it with the Jerusalem Post, it gives us huge, huge exposure, and I just got the figures, so I have them in front of me. We had 22,865 video views on the website and on Facebook, over 8,151 on Twitter. It goes to their newsletter, 175,000 subscribers. That's the electronic newspaper. The subscription for the real paper is 58,000. And we see this coming up into our social media platforms. Something that we have never done. And credit to you, Rami.
Thank you, Dina. I'm going to conclude and say the following. We challenge everything. Events, grassroots activity, we focus on major donation, and we prove success. We cut 50% of our team, we cut 50% of our budget, and despite all the fears, we managed to increase substantially our income. So not only that we challenge it, but we prove it's working. And anybody who want to know more about it, you're welcome to ask us questions. Not now, later.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Okay, my name is Guy, and I'm the head of the Israeli desk. It's part of the division in Israel. And I'm going to talk about involvement and impact. So please, I would like to introduce to you Yaniv Rivlin. He's a CEO of a micro mobility company in Israel, one of the leading one, electric scooters. And he says on his new book that just been published this week that he's proud to be working with the Alumni Association. Well, this guy was not known to us in the past years, but now we started to create some kind of a relationship with him and with about 50 more leading alumni here in Israel. And we aim to create value both for the university and for our alumni. And for that, we need infrastructure, first of all. And we're going to talk about the future. Some of the things we already started working on, but some of the things are futuristic. So our goal is to achieve technologically supremacy, become the leader in the Israeli academic world. We're working on a database in a Salesforce, and now we're in the process of acquiring Marketing Cloud with AI capabilities, because we understand that the customer journey of a contact should be tracked from the moment they become a lead, and then turn into donors and eventually board members also. We're working on a crowdfunding platform because we understand that there's so many needs in the different schools and different units that we can't provide all the funding for those needs, but they have, all the units, they have their own community. So we want to create some kind of a crowdfunding platform that units could raise a small amount of money by themselves. We're also working on to combining the Salesforce of the alumni database and the Salesforce of the donors database, so we could know which of our donors are alumni, which is very important for us. And we're also working on a new job board, because we understand that deployment is one of the very important value propositions for to engage our alumni, and we're working together with the Career Center of the Hebrew University, because they're the one who are in charge of all the employment, and we're going to offer all the jobs that are relevant to our alumni. Digitalization and NFTs. Well, in an online world, we understand that we have to be digital. We have to be wherever our alumni and our prospects are looking for us. And we have more than 135 followers 135,000 followers in our social networks. We're talking with alumni about NFTs. We have to figure out how to do this thing, but we understand that alumni are looking into those kind of futuristic tools. We're also looking at acquiring a chat box and Huji app, because we get a lot of questions that a robot can do instead of us picking up the phone and telling them what to do. We're looking into some kind of a complex development of a systematic program for recruiting elite donors from the Israeli richest, many of which are leading alumni, because at the bottom line, we have to raise money, and we have to be smart when we're raising the money, and we have to be smart how to approach potential donors and to provide with the right and the relevant contacts, the person to open the door. So we're looking into some kind of a sophisticated program for that. And we're also looking at lifelong learning, because we also understand that a very important value proposition is to provide our alumni with learning for their entire career. And we're working with various departments in the university to offer continuous educational programs. If talking about educating the educators, we just opened up the Alumni Association. We offered a course designed to help deans and administrators across faculties to better understand the importance of maintaining ties with alumni, because we understand that the value proposition of different schools, different faculties to their alumni, it's much better than one message fits all that we send out to our entire community of alumni. So we now see that in the university there are pretty strong cells, such in the business school, faculty of law. They being in touch with their alumni, and we want to push other units around the universities to be in touch with their alumni, because we have to provide them with a better offering. And during the course, we heard in the first meeting from the head of the alumni organization in Israel presenting Harvard, and we also heard from another person presenting NYU to understand what they're doing with their Israeli alumni in Israel and what events they're holding and what activities they're holding, so we can learn and know better. And next week we're going to meet with the head of the Technion alumni group and the head of Tel Aviv University alumni group, so we can understand what our competitors are doing, and we can learn from that also. Okay, regarding the task forces, during the past years, Yossi already talked about it, we recruited a very prestigious group of young Israeli alumni, most of them alumni, to join our board of governors. And we understand while we were talking to them that they want to do practical work. They want to do tachlis, as we said in Israel. They don't want to sit in meetings and just be a nice name on the letterhead. They want to be engaged and be connected to specific projects. So we had orientation meeting with them. They met the leadership of the university. They met the top researchers of the university. We held a very nice event at the home of Arel Beton and Tamar Beton. They hosted us. And a couple months ago, we also had a very prestigious event in one of the, in a hotel in the center of Israel, Dan Akadia, and it was magnificent. And now all those board members are part of task forces. You can see, Yossi already told the names, you can see such as computational medicine, sustainability, humanities, social impact, academic diversity, and nano-quantum. And we're working on these groups, and a lot of insights and a lot of leads and a lot of ideas come up out of those groups, and it keeps us really busy, and we see that they feel very engaged while being in those groups. And to wrap up, events and marketing. In the past, we were planning on producing a large-scale international alumni event and to award some kind of a prize for achievement. It was postponed because of the COVID, but now we're back on track and we're planning it again. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Daniel Shriki, head of the European desk. Before I start, just wanted to present our German-French president, Karl Ulrich Hansorg, who just joined us a bit, so welcome, Karl. And Charles Canetti from our French board. And just to start with the question, how many of the organizations here had run a crowdfunding campaign? No, except the French. So this call is for you. I'm going to try to argue in the next few minutes that crowdfunding is a very important tool in our toolbox, fundraising toolbox, that we should consider in our plans, but use wisely. And I'm going to demonstrate my argument with the French case of the crowdfunding they ran in 2021, April 2021. Everybody knows that you cannot compete with Gaia's slideshows, so my slideshow is very simple. In the division here, the best slideshows. So I'm going to try to start with the why. It all started 20 November 2020. I got a phone call during the morning from Catherine Ballet saying, Daniel, we have to do something. Remember the time? The time is we are in the COVID, 6 or 7 months in the COVID, lockdowns, isolations, people sick, and no events. The French friends had no events at the time during at least 1 year. And they felt that they have to touch base the donors and making some effort to fundraise. And I said, okay, Catherine, go ahead. And she said, we thought about making crowdfunding. We never done that. And we want to take a company named Charity that will help us to run this crowdfunding. So we are talking November 2020. So this was the reason from the French. It is not has to be the reasons to plan to wait for another pandemic to run a crowdfunding. But for the French, they felt that they have to touch base the donors and make some effort to fundraise. Where is the presentation? Where is my slide? Guy, you ate my slide. All right. So this is the why, yeah. So they set a goal of 500,000 euros Now in crowdfunding, you have to model the model which you fundraise, what you fundraise, and the matching model where you say to the donors, every dollar you put, we have another dollar to put to match. This is more complicated because you have to have the 50% of the matching before you start making the crowdfunding. And they secure this 50% without 250,000 euros by some donors beforehand. And this is very important to remember when you plan your crowdfunding campaign. Then the other goal, of course, was to touch base the donors, to make calls, to be in touch. And the third goal was, at that time in Paris, there was nothing going on in terms of other organizations. And they want to put themselves back on the map of the Jewish organization to say, hey, we are living, we are doing, and we are very interesting, and join us. So that was the third goal. Now the question was the timing. And when do you have to make a crowdfunding? So the timing is very important here. It has to be not in holidays, not in school breaks, not in football games, basketball. You have to find the right timing. And also, if you are running your regular gala events or other events, you have to see that it doesn't compete with your other event, fundraising event. So they decided to do the crowdfunding during the March. Now, see, it's 5 months of preparations, and actually it was delayed by 1 month, and it occurred only in April because Catherine was sick with the COVID. But the preparation is a crucial thing, and we have to remember that. Now in crowdfunding you have 2 main pillars. One of them is the platform, the internet site, and the company who is providing the platform. It has to be good, known, and running smoothly. The other one is a set of preparation. And crowdfunding actually is a protocol. When you follow the protocol, usually if you follow exactly the protocol, you get a successful crowdfunding. And it is not complicated, but you have to do that, and it takes time. So the first thing you have to remember, I'm going to mention 5 if you want to know. The first thing is the cause. And the cause is crucial, because if you take a very vague cause like, sorry Brenda, scholarships. Scholarship is not a good cause for crowdfunding. Research. Now, no one is interested in crowdfunding for research because it's not tangible. It is not nothing very specific. And then Brenda, and 2 months we were discussing what will be the cost. There was this idea and this idea, COVID research for COVID and etc. And then Brenda came with the brilliant idea of the ABSR3. I think this was you or Ram, someone, not me. And this was a bingo because it is a lab. It was the timing was excellent, COVID, etc. It incorporates research for COVID, and we had a date that will be established in August 2021. So it was the best cost we could provide them, and that's what they chose. Now, the second thing is having a good list of members that you can contact. If you don't have the list, don't do crowdfunding. List, it means phone numbers and emails and names. That's one. The second thing is to have ambassadors, people from your board, from your members that can call their friends and be part of this campaign to circulate the campaign for their friends and their networks. This is crucial. If you don't have enough ambassadors and people who are going to work for you and make phone calls, don't go. Then you have to prepare digital materials. I'm going to show a bit of digital materials. There is a set for the protocols, a movie, a short video, and then some banners during the crowdfunding campaign, and I'll show it later. And of course, in a matching campaign, when you promise $1 against the other, you have to have the matching beforehand. So you can say to the audience, are you going to match your dollar, and vice versa. Also for the donor who gave the 250,000, are you going to match your 250,000? So this gives them an incentive to give the 250,000. Okay, and the resources for that, I just talk about time, 3 or 4 months preparation, a dedicated project manager. It has to be someone that is only on that and working on this specific campaign. Volunteers, ambassadors, and of course, budget. I'm almost done. So what's the impact? The impacts. First, ROI, excellent ROI. They raised 500,000 euros and invested 30,000 euros to make this campaign. For example, 3 months ago, they have the campaign of a gala investing of 140,000 euros, and they collected about 3,000, I think, 3,000 euros. So the ROI is very good. It makes a tremendous positive effect on the organization, and also this brings many new donors. 150 donors from 450, so it's 43% were new donors to the organization, and most of them are from younger generation. And of course, this had to be followed up by emails and telephone and meeting afterwards, so you don't lose this new database of donors. So the future for crowdfunding, from my point of view, it is, as I said before, a tool in your toolbox. You have to know when to use it, how to use it, make it very specifically. Don't be with big expectation, but enter or give very good positive energy to the organization and put you back on the map of the organization around. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I think that we hardly have a few minutes. You wanted to ask one question?
As I am the French delegate,
Vive la France.
to add something, I need 60 seconds. First, if you need more details, practical details, we are available. The second point is, Daniel said everything. The most important result for us is the increasing in the number of donors. We have 100 donors regular. We added 100 donors irregular, mean people we knew, they give when they want, and this time they gave, and we had 120 new donors. Some of them were alumni we didn't know. One told me he met her wife here, and he would give us a big donation. So the main result is the increase in the number of donors. It's a fantastic opportunity to increase. Second point, practical point, is that you need ambassadors. That is the people that will bring their network to you. And this is one of the most important things when you prepare, is to motivate the ambassadors. So to be short, to be very short, there are 3 success factors. One, you have to be professional with charity, a planning, a project team, blah, blah, document, etc. The second point is you have to be enthusiastic, because it's what you will communicate to the ambassadors and what they will communicate to the new donors. And third point, the last one, you need to have a good project, very easy to understand, because you don't have time to explain. And the university gave us the best project, that was the ABCL3 lab for COVID. Thank you.
And this is the last photo when they reach the goal.
In the, thank you, Daniel. In the remaining 10 minutes, and we're not going to extend it over time, we need 5 minutes for Brenda to introduce the 100 Legacies projects. You've all heard the chairman of our campaign this morning, and you heard Gail Asper. And after this 5 minutes, we have 5 minutes for the president, the chairman, whoever wants to have some concluding remarks. So Brenda, 4 minutes and 56 seconds. Go ahead.
Even less. So as Yossi mentioned, you heard this morning, you heard Richard speak. Thank you, Richard, about the 100 legacies, and Yossi speak. And I wish I had a wrap, but Gail was fantastic. I think everyone will agree. So I just wanted to quickly run through the project. First of all, if you look in front of you, you have a sheet of paper with Einstein and others on it and a blue background. So that's a one-pager that we prepared about this project. But to be brief, we're talking about, and first of all, I have to say to Beth, thank you for the inspiration for this project. We're talking about towards the end of the campaign. We're now in a 7-year campaign. The last year, 2025, will be 100 years to the opening of Hebrew University. Towards that end, we would like to raise from 100 donors, each giving at least a $1 million bequest intent, in other words, to put Hebrew University in their will. As we can think and imagine, 100 times 1 million will be a tremendous lift for this next century of activity at the university. May everyone live till 120. It's actually probably an excellent way to live longer, to put Hebrew University in your will. Okay, it works. Ensure your future. Sorry, Mark. I think you need the mic.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm a bean counter, so I'm going to ask a bean counter question, which is accounting. Right? We don't, as a matter of course, account for bequest intents. They're sort of below the line.
Right.
But are they now? They will be incorporated in the $1 billion. No. Okay,
No. It will be.
addition.
It won't. Okay. We still want to reach the $1 billion.
Excluded.
Yeah, this would be on top of it.
Unless a tragedy happens.
Charles. So let me explain a little bit more about the recognition and what we're planning. So first of all, people will be able to direct their legacy, obviously, as they wish. Someone might want to say, I trust that in another 70 years, whoever is in charge of the university can use it for what they most need. Or it might be that, I really care about X, and so I want to make sure that in 50 years, X is going to happen, and that's what I'm going to focus on. In terms of recognition, what we have right now is, first of all, to create a very special book, like a coffee table book, that will have a spread on each donor who participates in the project. It doesn't necessarily need to be a life story. It might be a beautiful quote and a photo. We have to develop that concept more, but that's one. 2, of course, we have the legacy tree, so one would get the gold leaf on that, but we have that today as well. And the third thing we're looking at, and this we want to do in consultation with the lay leadership or with those who participate in this project, is a meaningful donor recognition site in Jerusalem, something new. We were looking at something in the original Einstein Institute building, or maybe the Gaster building that's across from it, something that represents the initial years of the Hebrew University, but also looks to the future and incorporates people's names and art. But again, this is something we'll do together with some of the people that agree to be in the project. We have so far formed a committee. We have 2 committees, actually. One committee working on the strategy for the project, and another committee looking at the marketing of the project. And as I said, we'll also create a small committee of lay leadership for people who have committed to the project and will help influence what is a meaningful donor recognition for the project. And that's about it. We already have a number of people who have committed, so we're not starting from scratch. But 100 is a lot of people, and what we need everyone in this room to do, obviously, if you can participate, we would be more than happy for you to do so. And if not, please think about people who you think might be interested, might be approachable. You have our initial one-pager with you, and you can go to your friend's association professional, and any of us will be happy to talk more about it, give information, go with you to a meeting, whatever's needed.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda. It was mentioned in passing, but it's very important for me to say it once again. The credit all goes to the one and only Beth McCoy. And Beth presented this idea to the management of the university. And unanimously, we all thought that this is an outstanding idea. So thank you very much, Beth. So thank you very much. You want to say
as we're moving forward with LEAD and all these different initiatives, we need to keep in mind those who are closest to us, who love the university most, are probably those who may have the capacity to make such a significant gift. And so I did a test run. I spoke to people who are very, very close to the university and who are incredibly generous. And she's going to kill me, no pun intended, but one is Annette Pakula. And I shared with Annette Pakula what we are trying to do, have 100 people at $1 million each. At AFHU alone, we have 13 who have previously committed. I pulled a list of those donors who have generously donated $100,000 or more combined giving, shared it with the executive directors. We have a potential list about 60 people, and I asked Annette what she thought about this idea, and you know what? I didn't really even have to ask her to consider it. She said, I'm in. Am I saying it correctly? And you are amazing. You're amazing. So thank you on behalf of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and AFHU.
Well, thank you, Annette. Thank you. The Chancellor asked for 1 minute intervention, and if expert of squeezing 1 minute into an hour.
I wonder, now that I heard that everybody thinks, or not, many of us think of having crowdfunding, maybe we decide, not now, that we have one day in a year, that each year, in this day of month of April or May, which is a date next to the Day of Independence, the Hebrew University has its own. The Hebrew University has its own crowdfunding, and it's over the world. Here in Israel, other places, we know how to aim into this target, and then everybody has his share, 300,000, 400,000, and Beth will have 100 million at the beginning.
Thank you very much, Menachem. It was even less than 1 minute, so you have 21 seconds your credit for the next time. Mr. Chairman, will you please wrap up this meeting?
A word to the wise, think twice before you sit next to Beth McCoy. And just thank you all for your hard work for the university and your commitment to making this campaign a success. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Toda rabah.